don't really want to talk about the exact location. And I also don't want to mention my name or my friend's name for privacy reasons. I'd like to stay anonymous, and I hope it stays that way. What I will say is that this took place at a McDonald's in a bigger city. I was with my friend, who I'll call Jessica for this story. She was my best friend throughout high school. We were really close and always had each other's backs on everything, especially when it comes to stuff like this. We were having a girls' night out at a little dive bar in town. It was on a Monday night, and I remember there weren't many people there. We had both taken time off work and were planning on hanging out all week for a little getaway. Around 7:30, we left the bar, having been there for a few hours and probably had a few too many drinks. I realized when I stood up that it was probably not the best idea for me to drive, so Jessica offered to take me home. We agreed that we were hungry though, so we decided to get McDonald's. It was quick and easy, so we walked there instead of driving because it was just down the street, and it would be fun to walk anyway. It wouldn't have been smart to drive such a short distance when, in reality, it was already iffy whether we should have been driving in the first place. I'm big on not drinking and driving because I've lost 2 close family members to drunk drivers. So I've always sworn to myself that I would never partake in it, no matter what. I wasn't sure if Jessica was good to drive, but I trusted her because she knew how I felt about it. Anyways, we got to McDonald's, and we were worried the lobby was going to be closed, but we still took the risk of walking, and thankfully it wasn't. But when we got there, it was rather dark. The sun was finally setting, and what little light we had left was fading away by the second. There was a man sitting outside. He looked homeless or stressed out, or maybe both. He was sitting in the front outside by the glass window, not even on a seat. He was sort of just laying there on the ground. But he perked right up when he saw us, walked up to us and asked if he could ask us a question. He asked for $20, and I told him I didn't have the money and needed it for McDonald's. We walked in, and we got our food, and I ate like half of it, only eating what my stomach could handle. Instead of throwing out my fries that I barely touched, I handed them off to the man outside. He seemed grateful, but he tried once more. "Hey, what about $15? Please, I'm really starving. I would truly appreciate it more than you know," he said. Jessica ended up buying the food for me, so I still had a $10 bill that I figured was better off with him. I gave it to him with a smile, and I started walking away. "Are you kidding me?" he said. I turned around in disbelief at what I just heard. He was mad because I only gave him $10 when he asked for 15. I explained to him that it was all I had and how he should be grateful. I demanded that he gave me my money back, which probably wasn't such a great idea and not really worth the hassle, but I was just so mad in the moment. "You want your stupid money, you dumb hoe? Come get it then." He put the money in his pants and told me to come get it. I practically gagged and we started walking away. He then started following us and screaming at us. It was almost unintelligible, but I could make out some of what he was saying. He was calling me names and saying things I don't really care to repeat, like threatening to do harmful things. It got to the point where we had to start running, and I called the police and started crying. He was kind of old and frail and probably malnourished and dehydrated, so it wasn't too hard to get away from him. Some people are just so weird and crazy. I can't even begin to fathom or understand it. The police said they couldn't find him that night, and we didn't want to keep waiting around, so we let it go. They weren't going to put out a warrant for something like that, so all they could do was keep an eye on things. I just remember feeling so violated when he was talking to us like that. I genuinely believed I was going to have to fight for my life, but luckily, it didn't come to that. I know Jessica and I could have probably beat him up together, 2 against 1, but you never know what someone's capable of. I mean, for the love of goodness, we didn't even do anything to set this man off, and he was that mad. He was so unpredictable that I thought maybe he was going to pull out a weapon and try to use it on us. You really never know anymore in this crazy world of ours. I used to work at a McDonald's for about a year, right after I finished high school. Working there was a decent job for me. I made a few friends with coworkers, and I didn't love the job, but I didn't hate it either. Mostly, I worked behind the counter taking orders or passing out food to customers. One busy Saturday, I found myself working a shift starting in the morning and ending in the afternoon. The place was really busy. Our location always got tons of customers, being close to a shopping center. With it being the weekend, it drew many people in, and time flew by as we scrambled to keep up. There were quite a few of us working, and I remember at one point, probably about 1 p.m., the place was really crowded. I got an order to hand out to a customer, and I called the number. A woman walked up and accepted it, then walked away only to return about a minute later. When she did, she was extremely upset. She sought me out and told me that this was not her order. She then angrily demanded her real order. I asked her for her order number, and when she told it to me, I realized that she had grabbed the wrong one. The number that I had called was different. This was her mistake. I told her that her order would be out soon, but she demanded a refund and said that it should be free. That's when I tried explaining the whole situation to her. It ended up being a total disaster. The place was loud and the woman would not listen to my explanation. It's like she could not accept the fact that she had made the mistake. Honestly, it made me really frustrated, but I kept my cool. Eventually, I called over a manager to help resolve the situation. I remember the woman specifically reading my name off my name tag and telling it to my manager, as if I should get in trouble for this. I just kind of stood there. My manager then told me that she would handle the situation, and I could go back to work helping the others. The woman was raising her voice and causing a scene. Just about everybody else in earshot was looking over and staring. At last, after maybe 10 minutes, the woman ended up taking her order and finally leaving. I did my best to forget about it and continue with my work. I helped other customers like normal for about 15 more minutes, and then it was time for my break. During that time when I worked there, I liked to take my breaks in my car. It was quiet and peaceful away from the busy McDonald's. I would just sit in there, go on my phone or whatever, and then I would go back inside to work. So, on this day, I walked out and left the restaurant to head to my car in the parking lot. Almost immediately after leaving the building, I saw the same woman who had put up such a fuss. She was sitting at one of the outside tables. Instantly, our eyes locked for a moment, before I couldn't help but look away from her. This was really awkward, and I decided to just ignore it and keep walking out to my car. As I passed her by, I cringed, as I couldn't help but notice that she was getting up. She didn't say anything, but I could sense her start to walk behind me. I walked out to my car, reached it, unlocked it, and got inside. I refused to entertain the woman following me. When I was inside my car and in the driver's seat, I noticed that she had walked right up to my driver's window. She knocked on the window, and I heard her start speaking. I quickly hit lock before she surprisingly tried opening my driver's door. After it wouldn't open, she then knocked on my window. I heard her talking, and she still seemed really angry. I began rolling down my window, curious about what she wanted to say to me, but as soon as I rolled it down, she reached inside for me. I heard her say, "Hey," to me as I started rolling the window back up. The instant that she reached in, I felt in danger and decided to back out and just leave. The woman stood there, shouting at me as I drove my car out of the parking lot and laughed. I knew that I couldn't go home because I had to return within 15 minutes since that was how long my break was. I drove around a little and called my boss, letting her know of the situation that just happened. My boss told me that she was aware of a situation in the parking lot and told me that she was glad I was okay. I said I would be back within the 15 minutes, and I kept my word. When I returned to the McDonald's parking lot, though, it was quite the scene that I was not expecting. There were multiple police cars and flashing lights. I parked and went back inside to learn what had happened. A few police officers stood around, one talking with our manager. Apparently, after the woman had yelled at me in the parking lot, another employee went outside to try to calm her down. There was another shouting match, and a customer ended up calling the police. The woman got arrested for disorderly conduct and attempted assault after she apparently tried punching one of the other employees. All I have to say is that she must have had anger problems or something like that, because I couldn't believe what happened. I've seen some crazy customers in my days working at McDonald's, but none will ever top this woman. In high school, my friends and I used to walk to McDonald's after the last class of the day. We did this almost every day of the week. A few of my friends lived in town too, so it worked out well. If we got bored of walking the streets, visiting fast food places, checking out Goodwill, or playing basketball, we would go to a friend's house to hang out until his mom got home. Sometimes she was okay with us all hanging out there, but more often than not, she would ask us to leave. It was understandable considering it was a small house, and having a bunch of energetic teens over every day after work could be challenging, especially when we caused a ruckus. We weren't troublemakers, but we did smoke weed and stuff like that. Looking back, I wish I didn't smoke so much at such a young age. Now I don't smoke or drink at all. Nothing against it. It's just not for me. I wish we took our mental and physical health more seriously as kids. One day after school, my friends, Preston, Tyler, Joshua, Ethan, and me, Connor, walked to McDonald's. I usually didn't have money, but this time I did. I walked up to the register and bought an M&M McFlurry, my favorite. That day McDonald's was quiet and not busy at all, which was unusual. There was only one other customer besides us, and they left shortly after we arrived. Taking advantage of having McDonald's to ourselves, we became loud and obnoxious. We were all high, and the excitement was short-lived. A man named Billy approached us. He had long brown hair, looked old, and had a creepy demeanor. He introduced himself, and when he mentioned his name, Preston burst out laughing, triggering the rest of us into a small chuckle. Preston couldn't contain himself, and I felt bad for the man, but it was just funny. Billy gave Preston a menacing look, and it seemed like he was trying to hold back his rage. Billy worked there and threatened to kick us out. After apologizing, we got him to walk away, but it was strange because he didn't wear a uniform and acted abnormally for a worker. Later, we found out from the general manager that Billy didn't actually work there anymore. He was fired years ago for attempting to stab a customer in the parking lot over a wrong order complaint. Billy was arrested, deemed mentally incompetent, and sent to a mental institution. Despite the police being called on him multiple times, he kept showing up at McDonald's. Eventually, he got arrested for trespassing, breaking his probation, and went back to jail or the mental institution. While not the scariest story, it's something that really happened. We stopped going to that McDonald's as much and opted for Taco Bell or Subway. I empathize with Billy's mental illness, but at some point, we have to keep such individuals off the streets to keep everyone safe. The streets need to be a safe place, especially for kids, and we wouldn't want them to encounter someone as unpredictable and potentially dangerous as Billy.